5.4b, we are continuing our sum and differences. So we can write this 5 better. So 5.4b, we are continuing our sum and differences in trig identity. Let's say they don't give us what the makeup of the angle is, and we have to kind of try to figure it out. Let's say we have 17 pi over 12, and we have to try to figure out how to make 17 pi over 12. Well, let's see what we have here, and we break those into 12, right? We have 30, 60, 90, and we also have 180 zeros. So let's all in our arsenal in terms of 12. So our 30 degrees, which is pi over 6, is equivalent to then 12, 2 pi over 12. Our 60 degrees, which is pi over 3, which is equivalent to 4 pi over 12. Our 90 degree, which is pi over 2, is equivalent to 6 pi over 12. Our 45 degree, which is pi over 4, is equivalent to 3 pi over 12. And our 180 degrees, which is just pi, is the same thing as saying 12 pi over 12. So let's see here with all these numbers, how can I add to make 17? I see I have a 3 and a 4 that adds up to make 7. I have a 3 and a 4 that makes a 7, and then if I add a 6 and another 4, that adds up to make 17. But that's a lot, right? That is a lot. I don't need to necessarily add all that. What if, oh, I forgot to do 3 pi over 2. 3 pi over 2, which is 260 degrees, which is then 12, which is 18 pi over 12, and also 2 pi. 2 pi, of course, is over 12, which is the equivalent of 24 pi over 12. So let's analyze what 17 pi over 12 means. 17 pi over 12, in terms of 12s, I noticed that it lands between pi and 3 pi over 2. So 12 pi over 12, if I added 5 more, if I added 5 pi, so that's 2 pi and a 3 pi, that will give me 17 pi over 12. So this is multi-step. So if I do just the 5 pi in reference of this, right, if I draw this, my reference angle would be here, and it would be the sum of the 2 pi over 12 and the 3 pi over 12. So let's try seeing what that would be. So here, if I did my sine of 17 pi over 12, and I am using my, so here 17 pi over 12, the reference angle, we are using that 2 pi over 12 plus 3 pi over 12, which is equivalent to the pi over 4 and the pi over 6. So my pi over 4 and my pi over 6, here my sine of that is If I draw some quick triangles to represent what that means, and I have my theta here, and the first one, I'm going to use pi over 6. Pi over 6 will then be 1 root 3, 2. Pi over 4 is 1 root 2. So my sine of pi over 6 is equivalent to, we're first going to just do pi over 6 plus pi over 4, which is the same thing as saying we want to multiply by using our formula, sine of pi over 6 times cosine of pi over 4 plus cosine of pi over 6 times sine of pi over 4. Okay, so our sine is 1 over 2. Cosine is 1 over root 2 plus cosine of pi over 6 is root 3 over 2 plus sine is 1 over root 2. This gives me a 1 plus root 3 over 2 root 2. And I have to keep in mind that this is in my third quadrant, and my sine value, my y value in my third quadrant is negative. So my answer is actually going to be negative root 3 plus 1 over 2 root 2. So knowing my reference angle and knowing where the quadrant is, I can get the answer, but then I have to then put in the fact that it is negative because it is the sine value. My sine is negative. So that would be my answer right there. Let's do cosine. So my cosine of pi over 6 plus pi over 4 is, the formula is cosine of pi over 6 times cosine of pi over 4 minus sine of pi over 6 times sine of pi over 4. Cosine is pi over 6 is root 3 over 2 times 1 over root 2 minus root 6 sine, which is 1 over 2 times 1 over root 2, which is root 3 over 2 root 2 minus 1 over 2 root 2. So then this is root 3 minus 1 over 2 root 2. But then we have to take into consideration that it is in the third quadrant, and my answer will have to be a negative. So I just put a negative in front to show that it's negative. Now my tangent is, they both have the same denominator, so I can just say my tangent is my sine over cosine. So it's negative root 3 plus 1 over 2 root 2 times the inverse of my cosine, so 2 root 2, negative. So negative times negative is a positive over root 3 minus 1. So these two negatives kind of cancel each other out. And now these cancel each other out. I'm left with a root 3 plus 1 over root 3 minus 1. Gonna multiply by root 3 plus 1 to get rid of that denominator, which is FOIL. So we have 3 plus root 3 plus root 3 plus 1 over 3 minus 1. Simplify, so this is 4 plus 2 root 3 over 2. Divide a 2 from everything, so then this is 2. I'm going to move that root 3 to the front. So then that is root 3 plus 2, just like that. The 2's all cancel each other out. Let's do one last angle. Let's say I have negative 165 degrees. Well, let's analyze what that means. Always draw a picture. We don't have a good idea. So it's somewhere here, right? Negative 165. If I take 360 minus 165. This is actually just 195. It's 195. And this would be our reference angle. This is the angle we want to work with. That is just 15 degrees more than 180. So we're only really working with 15 degrees. So how can I get 15 degrees with what I have? Isn't 45 degrees minus 30? Isn't that 15? So I can get 45 and 15. So let's draw the angles, triangles. So this is going to be U, and this is going to be V. This here. My angles are 45. So 1 root 2. 30 is going to be 1 root 3, 2. In that specific order, since I'm using a subtraction, order is vitally important. Here, if I want to find the sine, so sine of this, the reference angle, then I want the 15 degrees, is then equal to sine of 45 times the cosine of 30 minus cosine of 45 times the sine of 30. And sine of 45 is 1 over root 2. Cosine of 30 is root 3 over 2 minus 1 over root 2 times cosine of 30, sine of 30 is 1 over 2. So this is root 3 over 2 root 2 minus 1. And that is my sine value there. And then I have to consider, this is my third quadrant. Third quadrant, my sine value has to be negative. My sine has to be negative. So my answer is actually negative root 3 minus 1 over 2 root 2. Next, my cosine of my 15 reference angle is then cosine of 45 times cosine of 30 plus sine of 45 plus sine of 30. So here, this is 1 over root 2 times root 3 over 2 plus 1 over root 2 times 1/2. So this is root 3 plus 1 over 2 root 2, like so. But always we are dealing with a negative. In the third quadrant, we keep in mind what's in the third quadrant. So this is negative root 3 plus 1 over 2 root 2. And our tangent, luckily now we can multiply this by the inverse of each other. So this is root 3 minus 1. I'm going to just get rid of the negatives right away because negative and negative, they cancel each other out. So I don't even have to worry about that. I could put those in, but eventually I have to get rid of the negative. So root 3 plus 1, these cancel out. The negatives cancel each other out already. So then this is root 3 minus 1 over root 3 plus 1. Simplify the denominator. And I get 3 minus root 3 minus root 3 plus 1 over 3 minus 1. Simplify, so this is 4 minus 2 root 3 over 2. Divide out 2. So then this is just 2 minus root 3.